And we are live. What's up, guys? Welcome to PSR Live, where we're going to be breaking down some UFC Vegas 19. We have Curtis Blaydes versus Derrick Lewis, and we have a 15-fight card. Of course, as we know, we are in Vegas, so hopefully the 15 fights stand tact, but not getting my hopes up. But if so, it's going to be a really fun card, especially from a Draftkings standpoint, which is what we're going to be covering here today. Before we get started, just want to, if you guys can like the video, that'd help out a ton. Subscribe here to PSR Live would really mean a lot. And as always, just going to go through the card strictly from a DraftKings perspective. I'll give a little breakdown as well, but yeah, it should be a really good card. Like I said, we're in Vegas. We're in the small cage here. I think there's going to be a lot of finishes. We have 4 heavyweight fights as well. So yeah, it should be really fun and hopefully make some money. So with that said, we're going to get started, and we're going to start with the first fight of the night. And we have Sergey Spivak versus Jared Vanderaa. And as you guys know, I love targeting the first fight of the night, especially from a DraftKings perspective. But I don't know. I just have a weird feeling of this one. I kind of have some interest because, well, they're heavyweights. And just taking a look at the finish rates, where you can see right here, they have a lot of finishes on their record. So Spivak has a 90% finish rate, and Jared Vanderaa has a 91% finish rate. So on average, it's like 90.5. So I think there's a good chance it finishes. Both guys, I think, have 1 decision win only on their record. So I actually wouldn't be surprised if this finished. And I think the majority of the people out there are expecting this to be a boring decision. And maybe that's so, but it's heavyweights. I think it's going to be low owned. And for that reason, I actually do have some interest in this fight. And both fighters, really. I think both guys are going to be very low owned. A lot of people don't like playing the very first fight of the night. I get it. If the fight busts, you're in trouble, especially on a 15-fight card. But if you're telling me this fight's going to be very low owned, and if you're telling me these guys are heavyweights with a 90% finish rate, I don't mind taking a shot on these guys. So Jared Vanderaa, the dude, just watching tape on him, the dude's really slow. The striking is not all that there, but if he does get you down to the mat, this guy has some really legit ground and pound. I don't know if he's going to be able to get Spivak down, but if he does, he's going to be putting in Spivak in a bunch of trouble there. At 7,100, I don't hate that as a pump play for Vanderaa. So if you're looking for some value on this 15-fight slate, low-owned play as well, I don't mind Vanderaa. As far as Spivak, 9,100, not much volume. I think he could get takedowns. I think either guy can get takedowns here. 9,100 seems a little bit steep, but he's going to be so low owned. You got guys like Curtis Blaydes around that price tag. So I might have a little bit of interest, but if you're looking for some value, Jared Vanderaa is not a bad spot to go. What's up, guys? See you in the chat. What's up, Boston Nick? What's up, Preston? What's up, Aldo? You're the man, Brady. Appreciate that. What's up, Michael? 15 fights. Let's get it. Yes, 15 fights. Like I said, hopefully they all stay intact, because a 15-fight card, especially from a DraftKings standpoint, it's going to be pretty awesome there. What's up, Jack Attack? How you doing? But yeah, first fight of the night, I wouldn't go crazy on it. But I do have some interest in both guys, especially, the $2,000 savings on Vanderaa. The dude's a finisher. If he can get on top, I do think he can have some success. So some Vanderaa for me, maybe a sprinkle of Spivak. It's hard to get to him with so many great plays in the 9K range. Like Curtis Blaydes going to have a ton of them, stuff like that. But I think both guys you can target a little bit here. I think they could finish for sure. Next, we have a fight that not all the interested in at all. Drake Rodriguez versus Amin Zahabi, 8,700 for Rodriguez. And just taking a look at some of the stats here, Rodriguez is more of a submission guy, 86% finish rate, which is really good. 57% by submission. The majority of his fights, and at least every single fight I watch, he's initiating the grappling. He's getting submissions. And I just don't know if he's going to submit a black belt in Amin Zahabi, who is a pretty good grappler himself. So the 8,700 seems a little bit steep. I do think that both guys are actually pretty decent finishers. Both have that 86% finish rate. I don't know how owned these guys will be. I'm expecting them to be pretty low owned. If anything, I'd rather take the 1,200 salary savings on a guy like Amin Zahabi, a black belt in BJJ. I know he's looked awful thus far in the UFC. Got knocked out by Ricardo Ramos. He looked awful in his last fight against Vince Morales, a loss that was, really, really a fight he should have won. So I get that he's looked bad, but just in every single fight I watched of Rodriguez, and I watched like 5 or 6 fights, he's taking guys down or he's getting taken down himself. And I don't know if he's going to be able to play that game with Zahabi. So in this fight, it's Zahabi, if anything, just for a kind of a cheap play, 7,500. But ultimately, this is going to be a fight I'm very low owned on. And on a 15-fight slate, you really got to target the fights that are going to either going to finish, or they're either going to have a lot of takedowns, grappling and stuff. So this is a fight I'm not all that interested in. As far as a pick, I mean, I'm going Zahabi. I think I'm one of the only people out there taking a shot on Zahabi. I get it, he's looked bad, but I'm not too confident Rodriguez can come out here and out-grapple him, and that's what I've been seeing in a lot of his fights. So Zahabi, if anything, on DraftKings. What's up, Big Show? What's up, Just My 2 Cents? How you doing, guys? Zahabi had COVID or has COVID? Had COVID. Yeah, I think they were supposed to fight. Yeah, they were supposed to fight a month ago, right? And he did pull out. Yeah, so that's right. Yes, that's right, Preston. Hit the like button and subscribe. Would really help out a ton. And then you guys can ask any questions. We can talk about fights throughout the video, of course. Going to be trying to get very interactive here. And yeah, so we'll get to the next fight. So Jamal Emmers versus Chaz Kelly. And I think if you're looking for like a safe play, maybe a cash play, I don't hate Jamal Emmers in cash. As far as the upside, it could maybe be limited, but Chaz Kelly is a guy that has taken a lot of damage. He's 35 years old. He's getting towards the end of his career. He has been knocked out, I believe, one time. He's been knocked out once, finished in 1 out of 3 losses. Jamal Emmers is going to have, such a massive speed advantage, such a massive striking advantage that it's absolutely insane. So I think that Jamal Emmers gets a win. It's just, does he score well? I don't know if he wants to come out here and take down Chaz Kelly. I mean, that's giving Skelly the only path to victory he has. I think he should, stuff the takedowns of Skelly, keep it on the feet. So I don't really know how much upside there is with a guy like Emmers, but if you're looking like for a cash play, I think Emmers is somebody you can definitely go to. As far as Chaz Kelly, I mean, the dude's dangerous, really good submission grappler, 56% finish rate by submission. Emmers has been submitted before. Of course, it was a long time ago, but if Chaz Kelly is going to win, it's going to be by submission. I don't really see him winning a decision. I'd be kind of surprised there. I don't see him winning by knockout. If he's going to win, I think it's going to be like a first-round submission. So if you're looking for an underdog with some upside, I don't hate Chaz Kelly all that much. But as a whole for this fight, not all that interested. I do think Jamal Emmers wins, but Chaz Kelly is going to be dangerous, especially early there. So just something to point out there. What's up, Connor? How you doing? Yeah, he did have COVID. Remember that. Let's go. Hit the like button, hit the sub button. Really appreciate that a bunch. All right. So far, those 3 fights, not much. I don't love them too much. If anything, I like Vandera 7100 as a pump play. Maybe Zahabi as like a cheap underdog. Maybe Skelly as like a cheap underdog, but not really much that I want to target so far. But getting into the next fight, I think it's kind of interesting. We have some women's MMA, which there are 2 women's MMA fights on this card. And we've been seeing lately that women's MMA has been finding itself on the optimal lineup more often than not. And I think this is kind of a fight I could kind of see that happening just because of the styles of both fighters. So if you don't know much about Casey O'Neill, extremely low level. She has fought absolutely nobody. But going and watching the tape, the striking is not all that there. I actually think Dobson probably has a striking advantage. But what she's really good at is the wrestling and the grappling. And an important stat I want to point out for Shanna Dobson is she has a 0% takedown defense. 0% takedown defense. I mean, I believe she's stuffed 0 takedowns out of, I want to say, like 8 or 9. So every time somebody's tried to take down Shanna Dobson, they were successful in doing so. And what is Casey O'Neill going to do? She's going to take down Shanna Dobson. So, yeah, definitely wouldn't go here in cash because Casey O'Neill is so untested that it's crazy. The competition's not there. And, not saying Dobson's like crazy tested. I mean, she's 4-4, but obviously Dobson has been fighting the better competition. But if you're looking for, like we always say, like this new DraftKings scoring system, it's going to favor the wrestlers. It's going to favor the grapplers. And Casey O'Neill is right, just that, 8,500. She's going to get takedown. She's going to get control time. So I actually have a decent amount of interest actually in Casey O'Neill. But on the flip side, if Shanna Dobson's able to stuff those takedowns, she did show improvements a little bit in the Agapova fight. I know she got dominated in a way in that first round until Agapova, kind of gassed out, but she looked a lot better. So if Dobson's able to stuff the takedowns, she probably could finish O'Neill, honestly. I mean, O'Neill's striking is just not all that there yet. But all in all, I think it's a really good stylistic matchup for Casey O'Neill. 8,500 on DraftKings, I'm definitely taking a shot. I think she can get that control time. I think she gets those takedowns. Don't know if she finishes Shanna Dobson. I want to say Dobson has been knocked out once, never been submitted. And she has been knocked out once, never been submitted. She has lost by decision 3 times. I want to say she grinds out a decision, but even then, tons of control time takedown. So I do think it's a solid play there at probably low ownership. I don't really see anybody really targeting this fight. I mean, it's such an ugly fight, Casey O'Neill versus Shanna Dobson. So for that reason, I do have some interest in that fight, and I don't mind Casey O'Neill at that mid-range price, 8,500. What's up, Slaughter? Cash Slaughter, how you doing? Can't trust Emmers. You really can't. I mean, I remember him going against Giga Chikadze. I was very confident in Emmers to go out there and get takedowns, and he got them, but he didn't get enough of them. So yeah, kind of poor fight IQ with Emmers. All right, so we'll get into the next fight, and this is a fight I'm really looking forward to. We have the UFC debuts of Rafael Alves versus Pat Sabatini, and right off the bat, I noticed that these salaries are a little bit off. You know, a lot of money's coming in on the Sabatini side. I kind of see why. I really like what this guy brings. He's a very tough guy. He's never been knocked out. Good wrestler, good top control, and his BJJ is fantastic. I do think he's actually going to have the grappling advantage in this fight. Sabatini, I do believe, is a black belt as well. And the thing with Alves is he's going to have a pretty big size advantage. He's going to be an inch smaller, but he's like thicker. The dude's jacked. So I'm not so sure that Sabatini is going to be able to get him down, but I have seen Alves controlled up against the cage by lower level opponents. I've seen him taken down, kind of stuck on his back. And if Sabatini is able to get down Rafael Alves, Sabatini's probably going to have a field day. I mean, just taking a look at it here, Rafael Alves is 19-9. And Rafael Alves has been submitted 6 times. 6 times and 9 losses, lost by knockout 3 times. The dude's been finished in all 9 of his losses. So right there, I think there's a ton of value on the Pat Sabatini side. He's honestly probably one of my favorite underdogs in Pat Sabatini just because a decent finisher, decent submission artist. I think if he does hit if this does hit the mat, he's going to have a massive advantage down there. So Pat Sabatini is somebody I'm looking at. As far as Alves, he seems like somebody that really starts fast in that first round. If he does not get that first round finish, I don't want to say he gasses out, but he definitely slows down. He looks very tired. He's one of those guys that fights through it, but still he does slow down a ton. And I think Sabatini can really either just grind this guy out or possibly get a submission if it does hit the mat, which I kind of do think it does. I think that Sabatini can also hold him against the cage, get the control time as well. So yeah, I really don't hate Sabatini at 7,300. I think these prices are off. Honestly, if I was to set these prices on DraftKings, I'd put Alves 8,200. I'd put Sabatini 8,000. And for that reason, I think there's a ton of value on the Pat Sabatini side. So Sabatini's definitely somebody I'm looking at from a DraftKings perspective. And honestly, from a betting perspective as well, I think that line should be 50-50. What's up, Golden Tickets? How you doing? 23 people in the chat. If you guys can hit the like button, would really appreciate that. And also subscribe if you have not yet, would appreciate that as well. Talking some DraftKings here, talking some UFC Vegas 19. And it's a good card. It's a really good card. Small cage. I think there's going to be a lot of finishes. We have 4 heavyweight fights. And I think there's going to be some high scores on DraftKings as well. All right. So, yeah, like I said, Pat Sabatini, I think, is a really good dog. And kind of towards the end, I'll go through my favorite plays, my favorite dogs, my core plays, all that good stuff, and all that. So, next we have an 8,100 matchup here. Nate Landwehr, 8,100. Juliana Rosa, 8,100. And yeah, right off the bat, I think this fight's going to score very well, no matter who wins. Nate Landwehr, you can see it on the stats right there. He's somebody that absorbs a massive amount of strikes. He has a good chin, only been knocked out once by Herbert Burns. Kind of caught him off guard with that knee, but other than that, he's shown some really good durability. Cannot say the same for Juliana Rosa. So both of these guys absorb more than they give out. Juliana Rosa absorbs 5.67 compared to only, giving out 4.91. Not a good sign there. Same thing with Landwehr. So we'll take a look at the finish stats. And Landwehr, decent finisher, 57% finish rate, all by knockout. So he's a knockout guy. And guess what? Juliana Rosa has been knocked out 4 times. This dude is, he's chinny. He doesn't have a great chin. He gets into these brawls. And what is Landwehr going to bring? He's going to bring a brawl. He's going to bring a really fun fight. And I don't know if Rosa's chin's going to hold up here. I will say this, though. I think Rosa's actually the better fighter. I think he's the more technical fighter. But, as we always know, the better fighter doesn't always win. And in this fight, which I do predict to be a war, I'm going to go with the guy that's more durable. And this fight, like I said, it really should score well. Both guys throw a ton of volume. You can see a Rosa there with a really good sample of size as well, landing about 5 significant strikes per minute. Landwehr in about a 2-fight sample, landing just about 7 significant strikes. So honestly, I see somebody getting finished, and I see a Rosa getting finished. I just don't think he has the chin. So Landwehr, I do think he's going to be owned. I do think he's going to be popular because, well, the dude's fun to watch. Everybody loves him. He's in there yelling, which is always exciting. Hopefully he does that again. But I like Landwehr here. I like Landwehr here at 8,100. I'm going to take the more durable guy. But yeah, it's a fight I want. It's a fight I want in my lineups. So Rosa 8,100, he's fine as well. I do think he can win, but that chin worries me. But Landwehr's there to be hit. So all in all, I think that there's going to be a ton of volume in this fight. Not so much grappling, which I'd like to see. I think if takedowns come from anywhere, it's going to be the Rosa side. I do think Rosa has that grappling advantage. Maybe he does implement that. But ultimately, I probably see somebody getting knocked out here. I just don't think Rosa has the chin to really hang with a guy like Nate Landwehr. So yeah, Landwehr's, pretty much, almost a core play for me because of how much upside he has with that volume and just the chin of a Rosa. Oh, let's see here. Not a fan of Nate the Train, but a Rosa gets cracked constantly. I mean, yeah, you'd think that this guy knows, like, you don't have a chin to go out there and fight like that, but he goes in there, he gets into these wars. I don't know if he can do that against Nate Landwehr. Michael says, this could be fight of the night. These guys leave it all in the cage. I 100% agree. I think this is one of the more exciting fights on the card. I think both guys are just going to stand in the middle and bang until one man falls. And, I got to go with the more durable guy, Nate Landwehr. Going on tickets agrees. All right. So, yeah, I like that fight from a DraftKings perspective for sure. So next we have a kind of a tricky fight here. We have John Castaneda versus Eddie Wineland. And just watching tape, I went back and watched Eddie Wineland's fight against Gregory Popov. And, he looked a lot different than I thought he did. He didn't look as old as I thought he did. He actually looked pretty solid. I mean, he went out there and got knocked out his last fight really badly against Sean O'Malley. But Sean O'Malley would destroy John Castaneda. I will say this. I think Wineland's a better fighter. Watching Castaneda, I'm just not impressed with the guy at all. And I noticed in that the majority of Castaneda fights, he's going for takedowns. He's working that ground game. And I just don't know if that'll be here against a guy in Eddie Wineland, who one thing he does really good is he has an 86% takedown defense. So he's very hard to take down. So I don't think that path is going to be there for Castaneda. And what I also noticed in the tape was Eddie Wineland, especially as of late, has been engaging in these wars, these brawls. We saw it in the O'Malley fight. We saw it in the Popov fight. And John Castaneda, I mean, he doesn't, shy away from a brawl as well. I think this fight's going to be exciting. This fight to end inside the distance, I want to say is like plus 160. I would not be shocked if this fight actually ended inside the distance because I went through Eddie Wineland's record, and what I noticed, I was kind of shocked by this. The past like 5 or 6 Eddie Wineland wins have actually came by knockout, which surprised me because Eddie Wineland by KO is like plus 500. That was surprising. I think he hasn't had a decision win since like, I want to say 2013, 2014. It's been a while. So he's been knocking guys out as of late. And I just don't think that John Castaneda is UFC level. Could it be enough to beat a guy like Wineland, somebody that is 36 years old, somebody that his chin is not really there? It could be. But John Castaneda doesn't really strike me as some murderous power puncher. He has a 70% finish rate, 35% by knockout, 35% by submission. He's not submitting Wineland, you wouldn't think. So if anything, I think I'm going to take a shot on Eddie Wineland here at 7,900. As ugly as it sounds, I think he's a live dog. I think he's a live dog with upside. He's been finishing fights. He has some power, and I think he's the better fighter, although the dude's 36 years old, is taking a ton of damage. But just John Castaneda, I mean, the dude's not all that great. So if anything, I'm taking a shot on Wineland. Castaneda is not an awful play. If you think that Wineland's chin's not going to hold up, and maybe it doesn't, the dude's been knocked out 4 times in 36 fights. I think you could go to some John Castaneda, but I like Wineland here, and I think he's going to be very low owned as well. I mean, people are going to remember that Sean O'Malley fight where it wasn't even close, and Sean O'Malley got a very nice knockout. People are going to remember that and think Wineland's, washed, done, all that, and maybe he is, but I still think this version of Wineland could be enough to beat John Castaneda here. So something interesting there. I think it's going to be very low owned. So just a couple dogs that really stick out to me early. Wineland, Landwehr at A100, Pat Sabatini. So I think lineup construction is going to be pretty easy, honestly. I think you can be able to make every single lineup you want. And, of course, there's a couple fades that I will talk about as well. Get to them a little bit. But I think lineup construction is going to be pretty easy this week with this 15 fight card. So hit up the chat real quick. What's up, Danny? How you doing? What's up, Austin? I think Wineland has good value for a KO. I'm 100% with you. I would not be shocked if he knocked out Castaneda. But there are some concerns. I wouldn't go all in on it or nothing like that, but the dude's been finishing as of late, so I don't hate the Wineland at all. You're on Jared Gordon and Charles Rosa. I'm kind of with you there. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Yeah, isn't that crazy? Wineland has 29% striking accuracy, but he has 8 knockdowns in the UFC, which, yeah, that's a ton. So when he lands, he hurts you. And we saw Castaneda take a lot of shots in his last fight against Nathaniel Wood as well. Wineland didn't get KO'd for 6 years before the Sugar Sean fight. There you go. I mean, yeah. So maybe his chin's not as bad as we really think. 4 knockout losses in what, like 36 fights is not awful. So, yeah, I don't hate Wineland here. As far as like betting him, I probably wouldn't go that far. But in DraftKings, I think you can definitely get there at 7,900. Definitely a decent dog play there. All right, getting into the next fight. And I'm so excited for this fight. I see a lot of people on the Chavez side. I'm kind of there with you, but there just isn't a lot of tape on the Danny Chavez side. I was able to watch his last fight against TJ Brown. I will say this. I was heavy on TJ Brown. I thought he was going to go in there, get takedowns. TJ Brown, somebody that, typically scores very well on DraftKings because of his wrestling, because of his grappling. He went in there with one of the worst game plans I've ever seen in my life. He went in there and did not shoot any takedowns until like the late second round after Chavez, easily pieced him up on the feet, beat up his legs. And yeah, Chavez stuffed 6 takedowns, but TJ Brown was definitely compromised whenever he went for those takedowns. So a lot of question marks with Danny Chavez for me still. And those question marks didn't really get answered in that Brown fight. Other than the Brown fight, there's like 2 other fights you can watch of Chavez. One was from like 5 or 6 years ago. Another was like a highlight tape. So there's not much from this guy. Jared Gordon, I don't know. I think Jared Gordon could possibly get him down. I will say that Chavez, from what I saw in the Brown fight, his takedowns looked good. It's just I don't know how good his takedown defense really was because Brown decided to shoot for takedowns, in my opinion, like way too late. Like if I was Brown, I probably would have went out there and shot takedowns right away. So I will say that on the feet, Gordon's going to be throwing more volume. But the big thing with Gordon, and I think this is why a lot of people are on the Chavez side, is Gordon has no chin. I mean, Gordon's been knocked out in all 4 of his losses. Never lost by decision. He's never lost by submission. In 20 fights, he has 4 knockout losses. So I get it. I think Chavez is a good play at 8,400. If he is able to stuff the takedowns of Jared Gordon, fantastic. I think he probably gets a knockout. He has really good leg kicks, solid power. I will say this is the only 27% finish rate for Chavez. So could he be the 5th person to knock out Gordon? I mean, maybe he can. Maybe I'm overrating his power a little bit because he only has like 2 knockout wins in his career. Both of those coming just recently, but I don't know. He did hurt TJ Brown. I want to say like 2 or 3 times, kind of stunned him a couple times. So I do think he has the power to knock out a guy like Jared Gordon. But man, Jared Gordon, 20 fights. He's had the better experience. He's fought the much better level of competition, and it's really not even close. So I'm going to be playing both sides here. I think this is a fight where you should definitely target both sides on DraftKings. I think if Gordon is able to get this down to the mat, can definitely work that ground game. Although I think Chavez is like a black belt or something like that. So something to think about there. But I will have slightly more Chavez just because I think that Gordon's chin isn't there. I think if it does stay standing, he probably does knock him out. But I don't hate Jared Gordon as like an underdog play as well. So yeah, kind of 50-50 on this one. I don't hate the savings on Gordon. I kind of feel like this has a good chance of scoring well, whether it is Chavez stuffing the takedowns, keeping on the feet, landing a knockout shot, or whether it is Jared Gordon implementing that wrestling, that grappling. And I think it's possible, but just some question marks with Danny Chavez. Hopefully those get answered here. I want to see Jared Gordon go out there and try to get takedowns. I want to see if Chavez is the real deal. So one of the fights I'm really looking forward to there. Gordon got this. Why you hate me, Nick? I took Chavez here by 2nd round KO. Yeah, I don't hate it. What's up, Mills? How you doing? Chavez, yeah, really good training partners. Yeah, really, really good training partners. So obviously that's going to help him a ton. Colby Baeza, yep. All right, so getting into this next fight, and it's an interesting one. Tom Aspinall versus Andre Arvlovsky. and a lot of love on the Arlovsky side. What I will say is, I mean, I'm not touching it from a DraftKings standpoint from the Arlovsky side. When he does win, it's so low volume, and I'll kind of pull up the numbers, but in his last fight against Tanner Boser, he was outlanded like 2-1. I really thought Boser won that fight, but Arlovsky scored 44 DraftKings points in that win. In a win, he scored 44 DraftKings points against Tanner Boser. Against Philippe Lins, he scored 50 DraftKings points against Philippe Lins in his 2 fights ago. So 50 significant strikes against Lins, 34 significant strikes against Boser. I'm just struggling to find a path to victory for Andre Arvlovsky. I think if Aspinall comes in here one of 2 ways. I mean, basically just out-voluming Arlovsky for whether it is 3 rounds, if his chin does hold up, or just going out there and knocking him out in the first round. And Arlovsky is somebody that, he typically has chin issues. And I know his chin's been holding up against guys like Tanner Boser, guys like Philippe Lins, not the highest level guys, but, against your Rosenstrucks, his chin's not really holding up, guys like that. And I do think Aspinall has a ton of power, 100% finish rate. And you can see it right there that Arlovsky's been knocked out a massive 11 times in 12, 19 losses. So he's been knocked out 11 times out of 19 losses. So I still don't have confidence in that Arlovsky chin. I actually like Aspinall here quite a bit. I think he's going to be like semi-low owned just because of the amount of love on Arlovsky. And I really hope people play this dude on DraftKings because Arlovsky has not had a knockout win since, I want to say, like 17 or 18 fights ago. So if you're telling me Arlovsky's path to victory is to, first of all, throw no volume whatsoever and win a close decision at 7,000, I'm fine with fading Arlovsky there. But Aspinall, I do think he has upside to go out there and get a first round finish. So we'll definitely see if Aspinall is the real deal here. Obviously, he's fought nobody. Arlovsky's fought the much better level of competition, and it's not even close. But Arlovsky is 42 years old. He hasn't been looking great. I thought he lost his last fight against Boser. He beat Philippe Lins, but really, how impressive is that? I think Tom Aspinall would murder Philippe Lins. So give me Tom Aspinall here at 9,200. I'm gonna have actually a decent amount of the Tom Aspinall side because I think there's a really decent chance that he does finish it, and he does finish it early. So out of the 9,000s, I mean, Tom Aspinall is probably my second favorite play in the 9,000. So going to be pretty heavy on that. As far as cash, I think it could go in there in cash. I do think it's safe personally. I do think there's some upside as well, but this is probably more of a tournament play. But I'm going to have a decent amount of Tom Aspinall, I'll tell you that. All right. Exactly. 44 points in a win. It's embarrassing. I think Tanner Boser almost outscored the dude in a loss. It just goes to show that Boser probably should have won that fight. And I'm not just saying that because I had a bet on Boser. Aspinall winning this, I really think so, yeah. I'd be kind of shocked if Arlovsky beat Tom Aspinall here. Aspinall will show Boser how to finish Arlovsky. Yeah, I really hope so. So hard to get a good lineup with Aspinall and Blaydes. It could be. I mean, some decent underdogs. Like I said, Sabatini is a decent underdog. You got Nate Landwehr there at 8,100, and Eddie Wineland. So there are some decent underdogs. Jared Gordon's fine. Haven't really messed up with lineup construction all that much, but I do know I like Aspinall and Blaydes a ton. Going to have a ton of them. Yeah, exactly, man. Ruined my parlay. I thought Boser won as well. I mean, he didn't just outland him, double. He more than doubled the strikes of Arlovsky. But it is what it is. What's up, Billy? How you doing? All right, so getting into the next fight, and this is a fight that was supposed to happen, a month ago? And I guess there was an issue with Phil Hawes, and I guess he had to pull out due to an injury, which if you guys know the injury, let me know because I found nothing of it. But he pulled out on fight day with an injury, and it sucked because I literally had, I want to say, like close to 100% of that fight in my DraftKings lineups. Had to go and remake my DraftKings lineups that day. But kind of the same thing here, especially since it's priced 8,200, 8,000. This is one of those matchups where at this price range, we see more oftentimes than not pretty much find the optimal lineup. And this is a fight where I really think it can. So Phil Hawes, the thing with him is he's a finisher, and he's getting finishes in the first round. I want to say 7 of his 9 wins have came in the first round, and the other 2 came really early in the second. But with that said, he's somebody that does slow down after that first round. So if he does not get that early finish, maybe he does slow down because, I mean, the dude puts everything into all his shots. He puts everything into his wrestling. The dude's built. And I do think if he does not get that first round finish, Imavov can take over. But going back and watching the tape on Imavov, the dude's so hittable. He relies on his chin a lot. Can he do that against Hawes here? I'm not so sure. I like Hawes here as a nice tournament play. I would definitely not go here in cash, but if you're looking for somebody that's going to get a first round finish on this card, Phil Hawes is definitely somebody you can look at a very cheap price, 8,200. But on the flip side, if Imavov wins, I think he probably gets a finish himself. Maybe it is later in the fight, but probably a finish nonetheless. I just see this fight scoring high in general. And, probably the same thing as last time. I'm not going to be 100% on this fight because it is a 15-fight card and all that, but I will be very high on this fight. And as far as the DraftKings play, I'd probably be more inclined to go more on the Hawes side because Hawes, if he wins, he's going to be winning more than likely in the first round. If Imavov wins, maybe it's a decision, maybe it's a third round finish, but I do think the higher ceiling is with Phil Hawes, and for that reason, I do have more interest in Phil Hawes there. But I did have a bet on Imavov last time they were supposed to fight. I think I got him at like plus 150, plus 160. The line has closed down a ton, and Imavov's now plus 100. I wouldn't take it there, but this is a close fight. I think it can go either way. I do think it's lined right at this 8,200, 8,000 mark because it's either Hawes gets a first round finish or Imavov gets a second or third round finish is what I think. So, but definitely more on the Hawes side from a DraftKings perspective, just because of that first round upside. And he's somebody that we didn't have the 60-second win bonus at the time, but he would have got the 60-second win bonus in his last fight against Jacob Malkoun, knocked him out in the first minute there. So, yeah, Hawes, if you're looking for a nice tournament play with a ton of upside, I think Hawes is definitely the way to go there. All right. So getting into the next fight, and this is going to be the second to last heavyweight fight on the card. We have Chris Daukaus versus Aleksei Oleinik. And this is probably my favorite fight to target on the card outside of the main event. Chris Daukaus, 8,600, Aleksei Oleinik, 7,600. I think this fight finishes. I'd be, shocked if this fight doesn't finish. And I'll tell you right now, I bet the under 1.5 and minus 150 because I do think it ends probably in the first round. Chris Daukaus, what he needs to come in here and do is, the same thing he did in his last fight against Nascimento. Come in there and try to get a win in the first 30 seconds. I really think it can work here against Oleinik. Don't let Oleinik clinch up with you. Don't let him pull guard. Don't mess with the ground game of Oleinik as well. And I know Daukaus is a black belt and all, but the dude has 13 fights. He's been submitted before. He was submitted in 2015. I know he's made improvements since then, but wasn't really the best look in the world. Oleinik's had, I'm not great at math, but like 70-something fights. And he has a ton of experience. And just going back and watching the tape on Oleinik, this dude's insane. He can submit you when you're in mount. He can submit you when you're on top of him. The dude's nasty on the mat. He can get submissions from pretty much anywhere. So pretty simple. If this fight stays on the feet, Daukaus is going to get a knockout. If Oleinik is able to get this to the mat in some way, shape, or form, Oleinik probably gets a submission. And I will say, I think either guy has a really good chance to end this in the first round. If Oleinik wins, I don't see him getting a win outside of the first round. We remember in the Derrick Lewis fight, his last time, after that first round, Oleinik was done. He had nothing left. He was completely gassed out. He blew out his arms. And I can kind of see the same thing happening here. If Oleinik does not get that first round sub, he probably loses, and Daukaus probably gets an early second round knockout. But what I really expect Daukaus to do is just to come in here and do what he did against Nascimento, try to get the early finish. And I'm pretty confident that'll work against somebody in Aleksei Oleinik. Daukaus is going to have a massive speed advantage. He's going to be the better striker by a decent margin. So for that reason, Daukaus is honestly like one of my favorite plays on the slate at 8,600. I think if he wins, I think the 60-second win bonus is definitely in play. I think a first-round knockout is definitely in play. But with that said, if you're looking for an underdog with some upside, with some experience, Aleksei Oleinik is definitely somebody that has that submission upside. So this is a fight I want both sides. I'm going to have a massive amount of Daukaus, but I will have a little bit of Oleinik as well. And this is definitely a fight you want to play in tournaments. I would not put this in your cash lineups, your double ups. I would not do that. This is more of definitely a GPP tournament play, either side here. But I think whoever wins is going to be on the optimal lineup. I'd be kind of shocked if either guy was not on the optimal lineup because I do see this finishing so early. I like the under 1.5. Me too. Like I said, I already bet that. I really like it. If Oleinik wins, probably in the first couple minutes. Same thing with Daukaus. I mean, we've seen Daukaus a while ago get into that second round, really slow down. He's another guy that doesn't have the best gas tank. Of course, Daukaus has lost some weight recently. He's been looking really good, so maybe his gas tank is a little bit improved. But yeah, I think this finishes early. Hopefully first round as well. Old man Oleinik. Yeah, the dude is 43 years old. He's about to turn, I think, 44 years old. I want to say in like June, maybe. So yeah, the dude's getting up there. This could be one of his last fights. I mean, the dude has like 70 something fights. It's insane, but he's still going at it. Yes, sir. I like Daukaus too. Yeah, I mean, the dude, wasn't expecting him to go in there and knock out Nascimento like he did, but he did it. He looked good. He's been looking good. Only 13 fights, but if he gets a win here, I mean, he's definitely going to put his name on the map for sure. This could be one of the best cards of the year. So many great fights on the card. It could be 15-fight card, and yeah, I agree. There's a ton of good fights. I like pretty much all of them. I think there's some iffy fights, like we'll talk about the Vieira fight. I think it's a little iffy. Other than that, maybe the close fight and Pena, who I kind of skipped over. We'll go back to that in a little bit. But yeah, I agree. Give me round 2 to start. Man, if you bet the round 2 to start, you're going to be sweating, having heart attacks. Wish you the best of luck. All right, so I did skip over the Drakkar, Klose, and Pena. Really, what I'll just say is I don't really have interest in this fight. If I was to fade a fighter, it would be Drakkar, Klose at 9,000. He's just somebody that doesn't typically score well, not a finisher whatsoever. Same thing with Pena, somebody that typically does not score well. Both guys, pretty low volume. If I was to play anybody, I guess I'd say Pena because I do expect this fight to be a little bit close, but I do expect Drakkar to just take him down at times, hold him against the cage, make this fight. It could be exciting at times, and Pena is a really exciting fighter, don't get me wrong. It's just he does not throw much volume, only 3.26 significant strikes landed compared to Klose's 3.89. Don't see a finish. I see this going to decision. So really a fight I really want nothing to do with on DraftKings, really. All right, what's up, guys, in the chat? Oleinik subgame is just nuts. I agree. It's very nuts. It's crazy. I do not like Klose at all. Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of the guy. I think Pena's an exciting fighter, but like I said, kind of slows down. Doesn't throw much output. And he's been on kind of a skid as of late. I mean, losing to Kama Worthy his last fight was not a good look. All right, guys, 20 on the chat. If you guys can hit the like button, would really appreciate that a ton. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Again, would appreciate that a ton. We're about to break down a very fun fight here in Charles Rosa versus Darrick Minner. And a fight I have a lot of interest in, actually. I would say from both sides, but Darrick Minner, he is the definition of a live dog. He is the definition of a tournament play. This guy is live anytime he fights just because of how dangerous he really is. And I will go to the finish stats because I think there's a lot of great things here. So Darrick Minner in 36 fights, 92% finish rate, 88% by submission, and he's lost 11 times. 10 coming by finish, 8 by submission as well. Charles Rosa, of course, he's never been submitted. Went out there and got dominated by Bryce Mitchell. He was able to submit a pretty high-level black belt in Bermudez a couple fights ago. But, yeah, I mean, it's a tough fight to call. I mean, Minner, he's going to be looking good early. I think he's going to get Rosa in a lot of bad spots. And he kind of did the same thing with Grant Dawson. Like, Minner almost submitted Grant Dawson like 2 or 3 times, which was very frightening because I believe I had a bet on Grant Dawson there. But Dawson was able to work his way out of those subs and then take it, extend the fight, get into the second round. But Minner, if you're looking for somebody with like first round upside, this is the guy. 7,400. I actually like Minner quite a bit as a live dog. We're working with James Krause. I think they're talking about it, getting his cardio a little bit better, which would be huge. I mean, but I don't necessarily see him changing much. I mean, the dude has 36 fights on his record, but if he does improve that cardio a little bit, I think he's extremely live here, and I probably do see him dominating this first round if he does not get a finish. But if he does not get a finish, the dude has no gas. I mean, the dude's a one-round fighter. He blows his arms out trying to get these subs. Very dangerous guy. And I guess the reason why I'm on Charles Rosa is because he was able to survive 1 million submission attempts versus Bryce Mitchell. He was able to survive against Bermudez. And Rosa's a black belt himself. So I do like Rosa to possibly get a second or third round submission if Minner does slow down a ton. Minner has been submitted 1 million times. So I like both sides here. If you're looking for some really good value, if you're looking for a live dog, Minner is somebody that's going to fight for your money. He's going to go out there and try to get that finish, and you really can't ask more in a DraftKings play. So Darrick Minner is somebody I really have my eye on this week at 7,400. But on the flip side, 8,800 for Charles Rosa. It's not a bad look there. I think if he does win, I think it's a pretty solid chance that it's a finish. Minner's been finishing like 92% of his losses. So yeah, both sides here for me. Probably honestly a little bit more on the Minner side because of the price, but I don't think Rosa's a bad play whatsoever. I'm on the Rosa side. I think Minner has largely beat absolute bums, pretty much, and the dude loses a ton. He really does. Anybody else would have tapped Mitchell? Yeah, most people would have definitely tapped. I mean, he got Rosa in some very bad spots, and I kind of see the same thing happening here. I think Minner is going to get Rosa in a ton of bad spots. Will Rosa be able to get out of them? We're going to have to see, but I do know for sure that this fight's going to be very sketchy very early for Charles Rosa. All right, so the last two fights, and then we'll kind of talk about my core plays, my live dogs, all that good stuff, and then head out of here. But getting into the co-main event, not much to talk about. I mean, they put Ketlen Vieira here at 9,300. I have like no interest in this fight whatsoever. Vieira, somebody who's extremely low output, only lands 3.10 significant strikes per minute. I will say if she does get takedowns, I do think she's going to have a lot of success on the mat, possibly find a sub, but she's somebody that doesn't really land much ground and pound. But she is going to get a lot of top control. But 9,300, I'd rather go up and get a Blaydes. I'd rather get a Tom Aspinall. I'd rather go down and get like a Charles Rosa. So I really have no reason to play Ketlen Vieira. And outside of probably like a first-round submission, I don't see her doing much. As for Yana Kunitskaya, no thank you. I mean, no thank you. I don't see her finishing Vieira. If she's going to win, it's going to be because she's holding up Vieira against the cage, landing a little bit more output. I just don't see this fight scoring high as a whole, and especially on a 15-fight slate. Like if this was a 10 or 11-fight slate, I can tell you right now, I'm still not probably paying 9,300 for Vieira. So if there's one fight I'm going to completely fade on this card, it's probably going to be that Vieira fight, Vieira Kunitskaya. The other one I really don't like is the Drakkar Klose and Luis Pena fight. Those two probably going to be my least exposed to on DraftKings. But yeah, not really a fight I want all that much of. No, I'm definitely with you. If we lose one fight to COVID, please let it be this one. I 100% agree. Let's not lose a very exciting fight. So, cross your fingers. We're in Vegas. Not getting my hopes up, but if we do lose one fight, yes, take it away. I don't really want to watch it, honestly. Tony Gravely versus Nate Maness booked for April 17th. Very good fight there. We're looking forward to that. All right, so getting into the main event here, Curtis Blaydes versus Derrick Lewis. And yeah, I'm all over Curtis Blaydes, and we really don't need to get into the stats, but we can a little bit. Curtis Blaydes, we already know, very good wrestler. Derrick Lewis, we already know, very bad takedown defense, probably one of the worst takedown defenses I've seen in the UFC. I mean, guys try to take him down. He literally just gives up the takedowns, which is not great. And off Lewis's back, doesn't offer up submissions, doesn't, really offer up anything off his back. He just works his way back up to his feet, whether that's just, trying to get up with, zero technicality at all. He gets on his hands and knees, exposes his neck, and it works because the dude doesn't really have a neck to expose. And then he just gets up and, guys take him right back down. I think Blaydes has potential to, I don't want to say set a takedown record here, but I say his potential to get like 10 plus takedowns here on Derrick Lewis, depending on how long this fight lasts. If this fight lasts to the third, fourth, fifth round, I think he has potential to get a ton of takedowns, but I don't really see it lasting all that long. I think it ends in like the third round, third-ish, fourth-ish round around there. Blaydes is somebody that has really good cardio for the heavyweight division. I mean, he slowed down in his last fight against Volkov, but he took down Volkov 14 times. Volkov has the much better ground game, the much better get-up game than Lewis, even better takedown defense than Lewis. I think Blaydes is going to make easy work of Lewis, take him down at will. And outside of Lewis landing something, I just don't see how he wins this fight. And, Blaydes is going to have the much better cardio, and it definitely takes some energy to get up in the fashion that Lewis does. So I do see Lewis probably gassing out very early, and Blaydes just landing some ground and pound, getting him out of there. So Blaydes 9,400, honestly, is probably my highest owned exposed on the whole slate. And taking a look at some of the scores that Curtis Blaydes scores and they're insane. Against Volkov, 173 DraftKings points, 69 significant strikes, 14 takedowns, 20 minutes of control time. I'll tell you right now that Curtis Blaydes is going to have an insane amount of takedown control time for as long as the fight lasts. He's going to have an insane amount of takedowns for as long as the fight lasts, and I do expect him to finish Lewis late in the fight, late-ish, like the third round around there. So yeah, Blaydes probably my highest exposed on DraftKings. As for Lewis, I do think he's going to be semi-popular because he's Derrick Lewis, because he can win at pretty much any moment. It's just I don't think Curtis Blaydes is going to give him that opportunity. I don't think he's going to stand with Derrick Lewis because why would you? Why would you? I mean, take him down at will, and I think it's going to be a pretty easy night for Curtis Blaydes here. So give me Blaydes. I like him a lot. And I'm going to, I'm tempted to go like 100% on him because I don't see, if he wins, I don't see how he does not end up on the optimal lineup. So I don't usually lock fighters on DraftKings. Maybe I'll go like 90%, but I'm going to be very heavy on Curtis Blaydes. All right, so what do we have in the chat? Dude, I'm with you. I will never bet on somebody with Vieira in their last name ever again. 100% with you. That was awful. That was awful. Let's see here. Blaydes by ground and pound. I agree. Like I said, late in the fight, I think Derrick Lewis is just going to kind of shell up, give up his back, and I think Blaydes just going to pound away until the ref stops the fight. Blaydes smash. Blaydes all day. Connor, I think he was gassed because Volkov was getting up so many times over and over. Yeah, he gassed like I want to say like a fourth round, really, really slowed down. But Blaydes was still out there getting takedowns in that fourth and fifth round. Gassed or not, he was still going out there and getting them, which was a good sign. Michael says, fun stat, Blaydes has a 58% control time over his UFC fights and has yielded 2% control time. That is dominance. That is dominance. And people don't like dominant fighters. People don't like guys like Kamaru Usman. People don't like guys like Curtis Blaydes. I remember so much hate on Twitter whenever Kamaru Usman fought Jorge Masvidal, holding him against the cage, all that. I remember so much hate on Twitter when Curtis Blaydes took down Volkov 14 times. People don't like dominant fighters. I don't get it. Exactly. My balls is hot. That was classic there. Smash, I agree. Second round TKO. I don't think Blaydes is that good. He should smash Saturday. I think he smashes here. I mean, the dude has only lost to Francis Ngannou, so I don't know if I want to see them rematch again for a third time, but maybe it happens in the future. All right, so now I'm going to go through my core plays, my most exposed plays, some live dogs, some pump plays as well. So right off the bat, I like Curtis Blaydes a lot, 9,400. Probably going to be my highest exposed on DraftKings. Chris Daukaus, I love the value at 8,600 in a fight I feel like is going to end in the first round. So Blaydes, Daukaus. Other than that, I think Aspinall is a really good play at 9,200. So those three right off the bat, and it just so happens all three of those are heavyweights. Other than that, for a core play, probably those three. Maybe I'll throw in like a Nate Landwehr. I think Landwehr at 8,100 is going to be a good play just because of how cheap he is, just because I think this is going to be a war. And Rosa really doesn't have a chin. And both guys get hit a ton, don't get me wrong, but I think Landwehr, has the better durability. And I think that's going to play a big factor in a fight. I feel like it's going to be a war. So for like a core four, Landwehr, Aspinall, Blaydes, and Daukaus, I like those four a lot. As far as some live dogs, I'll be looking hard at Pat Sabatini, 7,300. I don't mind him whatsoever. Eddie Wineland, I know the dude's, kind of getting up there in age, 36 years old, but I think this is such a winnable fight for him. And he's been getting finishes as of late. So don't be surprised if Wineland goes out there and gets a knockout on Saturday. Jared Gordon, the more tested fighter. If he does get this down to the mat, I feel like he can score well. Other than that, Imavov, 8,000, not a bad underdog play. Aleksei Oleinik, not a bad underdog play. If he wins, it's going to be inside the distance. It's going to be early. It's going to be by submission. Derek Minner, the definition of a live dog. Make sure you guys have some of this guy in your lineups. He's going to absolutely fight for your money. He's going to go out there trying to get that early stoppage win. And then that's about it. So those 5 or 6. And then as for like a pump play, there isn't much punts I really like. I mean, Pat Sabatini, if you want to classify that as a pump play, 7,300. Or I think Jared Vandera at 7,100 is not a bad pump play just because he's so cheap. This is a heavyweight fight. This is the first fight of the night. I feel like it's going to be low-owned. So Vandera is not a bad spot if you're looking for a low-owned heavyweight with some upside, with like a 90% finishing rate as well. All right, so Exactly. I could not believe that, man. I could not believe it. Blaydes going to Donkey Kong, the Black Beast. I agree. People hated Khabib before he smoked Conor too. Yeah, people don't like Khabib as well. People don't like these dominant fighters. I agree, Conor. Good luck, boys. One more night for weigh-ins. Make sure you watch their great interviews. Peace. Sup, Bloodthirsty. All right, I'm going to head out of here. Thank you all for hanging in for the 15-fight card. Like I said, hopefully all these stay intact. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys can hit the like button, would really appreciate that. Subscribe here to PSR Live. It would really help out as well. And if you have any questions, you know to reach me. Twitter is DFS_numbers. Instagram is DFS by the numbers. I'll be doing my live stream as always tomorrow, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. And I'm not sure if we will or will not yet, but probably Talkin Hands as well tomorrow, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern time as well. So tune into that. And I also do other content on my channel, some NASCAR, if you guys are into that. My Draftkings video will be out soon, and then my betting breakdown on Saturday. So lots of good stuff. And of course, tune in to the live on Saturday where we're going to be watching the fights. I may or may not make an appearance. Hopefully I do. I haven't been on there in a while. I haven't been able to. So hopefully I make an appearance there with all the guys, talk some live bets, watch some fights. Always a good time. So that's about it, guys. And good luck on